Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of
Kiddo.
My name is Hans
I'm Edward.
and we are your hosts for now and forevermore.
Exactly. For a change, I don't feel I should put anything negative today.
It's funny because normally you always are, and today you have reason to be, which we'll get to in a little bit.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for once again tuning in. If you're new, welcome to one of the internet's best variety podcasts where we talk about gaming, entertainment, technology, and lifestyle, all wrapped up in a wonderful geek wrapping.
A beautiful geek.
A beautiful geek. Well, last week it was colorful, right? So I guess we're going to have to think of something new each week.
Like Spider-Man. Sensational, amazing, extra,
so
Edward, terrestrial.
How are you doing?
I could be better, I think.
Shame. Yeah, I know. You're suffering a little bit from, I think, migraine at the moment.
Yeah.
So, Edward is going to try and persevere through this episode, but, cut him some slack if he doesn't quite make the links between topics.
I never do anyway.
Which is, I know, it's our running joke in Gettle.
How are you, Hans?
I am okay. Oh, geez. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm okay. Thank you for asking.
Good.
I'm still coming off whatever it was that I had, but I'm feeling a lot better already. If anyone is watching the video, you might see I'm a little bit teary-eyed at the moment, and that's because I have just been laughing so much with Edward before we started this episode, because both of us are just old men now, and
it's falling apart.
Stay tuned to our socials because we're going to post it because it's too good not to share. Anyway,
Hashtag dying inside.
But to get into things, I'm sure some of you who have been listening for a while will notice that our structure is a little bit different now, whereby we start by talking about ourselves, which is, hello, it's our podcast. And then we sort of go into reviews and previews. Now, it's a new thing that we're doing, and we're actually really enjoying it. So, let us know what you think. For those who aren't interested in the reviews or previews that we talk about, as always, there are timestamps, so feel free to skip ahead and listen to whatever it is that you want to. But, of course, you should listen to the whole thing.
Of course. That's how it's meant to be consumed.
Yeah, of course. So getting straight into it, our reviews for this week are, it's mostly TV shows, to be perfectly honest, which is pretty awesome. The first of which is Umbrella Academy Season 2. I'll be honest. I thought it was pretty meh. I've seen a lot of positive reviews online about how people enjoyed the structure and how there was less exposition in terms of building the characters up, because obviously the first season was new, but I felt it was missing a certain je ne sais quoi. And I know that sounds like a bit of a cop-out, but I think I missed the intrigue, because I'm going to try and keep it as spoiler-free as possible, but in the first season, there are these agents who you know nothing about, you don't know anything about them. Now, in the second season, you're meant to already know everything about them. So there's none of that sort of wonder and intrigue about who these people are. And so it very much, to me at any rate, just felt like a repetition of the first season. Very much a lot of the same story beats, including, who not villain, but it's just a lot of the same story beats without getting into a lot of detail, which to me was a bit disappointing. Of course, it's always nice to be back in this universe with these brothers and sisters and to know more about them and that. But, when the narrative is so similarly geared to the first season, despite growth, it felt like a bit of a cop-out. Now, I can't critique it too much because my understanding is this is based on a comic, and the comic is exactly the same way. So, look, it's all right. It's fun. It's a fun show. It's a fun season, but it didn't blow me away. That's basically all that I'm going to say about that.
On that note, though, I've actually read that Umbrella Academy is one of the most closely adapted shows out there. So, as you said, maybe it is.
Yeah, look, that's what I'm thinking. So, which is why I'm not critiquing it too harshly, because if it is close to the source material, then that's great. That's awesome. But then that makes me wonder, is it is there possibly going to be something better in future seasons? Because if this was just a repeat of the first season, I really hope that this is not what the narratives are going to be like in future seasons. You see?
Well,
anyway,
maybe it'll all get paid out next season.
We'll see. I will say it did end on of course, another cliffhanger, much like how the first season ended, but a different kind of cliffhanger. And I am curious to see where it will go. So that's it. Yeah, if you enjoyed the first season, you will undoubtedly enjoy the second season. I just felt it was a little, a little bit meh. It didn't blow me away as much as the first one. It was good. It was enjoyable. So if you enjoyed the first one, you'll enjoy the second one. With that in mind, and just quick, there's the new season of The Boys is coming, and I'm very, very excited for that because everything I've seen so far looks amazing.
All the trailers so far have been spot on. So yeah.
Now, with Umbrella Academy aside, Edward was lucky enough to get some preview screeners of Lovecraft Country. Sorry.
Yeah.
I always read it as Lovecraft County when it's
Don't worry, me
country.
too. Yes. Technically, you are correct though in reading it Lovecraft County because in the show it is all about the different counties in America.
Oh,
and
okay.
Just the characters call
what the whole thing a country instead of county. I assume.
Exactly, they call it Lovecraft Country, meaning
and just
that's
out of
the
curiosity,
weird thing.
When they say country, they're talking about America, right?
Yes, they're talking about the counties where Arkham, Innsmouth, Ardham reside.
Oh, okay. So look, I know very little about not just the show, but even Lovecraft in general. And I know that you're a huge fan. So tell me, these places are obviously all fictional, yes?
Yes.
Now, when H.P. Lovecraft wrote these stories, did he do so from an American point of view?
Yes.
So these places technically reside in the USA.
Yes.
Okay.
In many of the stories, these places usually, I don't know what you call those towns that refuse to go by the laws of the country, but most of the time these towns are run by like the big head honchos. And they sometimes have their own credit system and everything.
What I'm assuming is, so the way America works right now is it's 52 states. And that's why it's the United States of America, where every state technically is allowed to have their own laws and so on and so forth. But of course, there is one general governing body that, dictates things like the currency that is used, etc., etc. Perhaps counties are like provinces within a state.
That's exactly how it is.
Also, areas, not provinces, because a province is another word for a state. So
it
would be like locations, like Benoni and Boxburg, that kind of thing.
Exactly. So Lovecraft Country, listen to me now.
Hey, you're doing what I was doing.
Exactly. It's a show that follows Atticus Freeman. I always want to call him Atticus Black for some reason.
Hey, shout out to one of our listeners. They share the same surname. Tegan Freeman, yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. So it follows Atticus Freeman, his uncle George Freeman, and Atticus's not lifelong friend, but old friend, Letitia. I forgot her surname. And at least for the first episode, it follows how they travel across America from Chicago to Lovecraft Country.
So just to be clear quickly, you aren't allowed to divulge anything else apart from the first episode. Is that correct?
That's
according
correct.
to the embargo information.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if anyone's wondering why Edward is being a little bit elusive, this is why. He isn't allowed to say anything else.
Exactly.
But yeah, okay. So carry on, Edward.
So basically they travel cross country in order to get to Ardham, which is one of the many areas in Lovecraft Country.
Now tell me, I actually saw the word Arkham written. So Arkham as well, kind of like Arkham from DC?
Well, I bet DC's Arkham is based off of Lovecraft's Arkham.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How fascinating is that?
Because Lovecraft's Arkham is way older, technically, in publication. So I think it's based off
we need to look into that. That is very interesting.
Yeah.
I
actually will.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
So obviously Arkham is an actual area in the book, in Lovecraft books.
Yeah.
But it's also, or rather, I'm digressing again. Let me get to the point. Lovecraft Country is a
Welcome
book
to Gettle, everybody.
is a book written by Matt Ruff, which is based off of Lovecraft's books.
Yeah.
So it's a book based on a book based on a book, or a story based on a book based on a book.
Which I know can sometimes pose a problem, but
Yes.
in your review you mentioned that instead of showrunners normally injecting political notions because they want to be relevant, that in this scenario it's actually done with wonderful aplomb.
Yes. So like in CW shows, that's all that comes to mind at the moment.
Of course,
usually
it is.
like
my disdain for CW.
Exactly. The current political climate is always reflected within just one episode, and it's super brute force. And suddenly all those issues go away by the next episode. Now, Lovecraft Country, and by extension, H.P. Lovecraft's work and Matt Ruff's work, is all literally based around the fact that social political issues exist. It's ingrained within the stories.
I like that. So therefore, it's not forced. It's actually a really sort of like loving is not the right word, but it's a engaging progression.
Exactly. So obviously, as you watch the first episode, there will be super racial stuff that you see, like segregation is at the forefront of the story. But at the end of the day, the story is not about that. It's about family traveling across America and finding the secrets of their heritage. And just so it turns out that their heritage,
with a Lovecraft twist.
Their heritage has to do with the Lovecraft mythos.
Okay,
and
awesome.
it's an amazing story. I love Lovecraft.
Okay, that's awesome. Now, as always, with all of our episodes, we will link below to relevant reviews, previews, and information as we speak. So by all means, click on the link and you can read the full review to see if you want to watch Lovecraft Country, which, as far as I understand, I think it debuts on the 16th of August, 2020.
Yes, next week sometime.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, now, from movies, we're going to move on to some video games because that is also our bread and butter. Edward was lucky enough to review Horizon Zero Dawn PC edition. Boom, boom, boom.
Wop, wop, wop.
And how was it? It's an old game, so we don't have to get into too much detail. But essentially, give us the rundown of, is it worth getting on PC if you didn't play it on PlayStation? And, if you have a PlayStation, would it still be worth getting on PC anyway? Or, you know what I mean? Just
short answers, yes and no. So yes, it's totally worth getting if you haven't played the game before.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't get it if I already own it on PlayStation.
Fair enough.
I think it's a good port. I had some issues getting it up and running in the beginning.
Yes.
Because as you load up the game, it does this entire optimization thing. And the game crashes a few times during that. I believe that's getting patched out.
I heard Digital Foundry had the same problems.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But after that, all I did was reinstall DirectX, and my experience from there was smooth. Okay. And I love the game. It's a really good game. I reviewed it, I scored it rather highly.
Oh, but I mean, of course, because the game itself, we all know is excellent.
Exactly.
This is just determining whether or not the PC version is good enough to invest your time into. And basically what you're saying is, if you've never played it on PlayStation, yes, get the PC one. If you already own it on PlayStation, just play it on PlayStation.
Yeah, might as well just keep it on PlayStation.
Now, you see, I'm going to just change it a little bit. If this was Microsoft and you had Game Pass, you wouldn't have to buy this game again. I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to delve into that anymore.
Yeah.
So after the reviews, we have some previews. Not too much in the week ahead, but essentially, I may have some ASMR videos upcoming.
Finally.
Which I know Edward is a huge fan of. And if you're watching the video, you'll see something behind me. I'm, product placement.
Hashtag blessed.
Yeah, stay gifted. We received a Razor Huntsman for review, so I still need to shoot the unboxing and that, and I'm hoping to do a bit of an ASMR feel to it. So stay tuned for that. Edward will be doing the written review, and I'll most likely be doing a video review, hopefully in the near future, still to be determined. All right, cool. So those are our reviews and previews, and now on to the expression that I hate the most, Edward.
The meat and potatoes.
Yes, the meat and potats of the Ghetto episode 26.
I like how that sounded like patats.
Okay, so the first one, and again, this is video game related because we have just been speaking about video games and hardware, has to do with Marvel's Avengers video game by Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix, and how Spider-Man is going to be exclusive to the PlayStation version of the game.
Which I don't understand at all.
Okay, so look, exclusivity is unfortunately something we have to deal with in the console space. They all do it. Microsoft has exclusives, Sony has exclusives, Nintendo obviously as well. Now, exclusives are fine. That's not a problem. If you're going to have an exclusive title on your platform, by all means go ahead, because then it doesn't really matter because it's only on your platform. However, when you start approaching multi-platform games and securing content that is only available to your platform, that might be good for you and your brand and your platform. But in the end, that damages gamers and the enjoyment of the titles, in my personal opinion.
Exactly.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. So I feel that no matter what Crystal Dynamics and Square does now to include new characters, or I think they even said that, PC and Xbox players don't need to worry because this is the only exclusive character and we're getting lots more.
Yeah, they've come on record saying that there's Black Widow and Hawkeye.
Exactly.
And that this is the only one. And I'm like, it shouldn't be.
But even then, this means PC and Xbox players are getting the inferior product.
Well, I mean, if you count one character, then technically yes. But look, somebody pointed out on Twitter when this whole fiasco blew up, they said, this is like Marvel releasing the Avengers film and saying, oh, well, Spider-Man can only be seen in the film in these cinemas and not in the others. It's exactly the same thing. You're literally cutting a piece of this universe out of the game because of exclusivity.
And what makes it worse is that it's not some random character we haven't seen before, or that not a lot of people might or might not want. It is an integral character to the Avengers to begin with. And it's a character that millions upon millions of people have started loving across this last few generations with all the movies and stuff.
Yes, and I know that you are a huge fan.
Yes,
so,
I'm personally a huge Spider-Man fan.
Now, I guess, from that perspective, and because you have a PlayStation, it would make sense for you then to get the game on that platform, right?
Yes.
But that's not your preferred platform to game on. Yours is actually PC.
Not at all. Yes.
If we must be honest. But now you're being forced and locked into a platform because of this exclusivity. Now
exactly.
Just, genuinely, I'd like to know, how does that make you feel? Really? Because you're a big fan of Spider-Man more than I am. Like, how does this make you feel as a fan of Spider-Man, not as somebody who has a fan of a particular platform?
As a fan of Spider-Man, I'm glad to see the character in the game. As a gamer, I'm not glad to see it be an exclusive. Yes. Number one, because I feel it's anti-gamer. Or let me clarify. I think a game like Marvel Spider-Man as a platform exclusive is perfect fine.
Exactly.
I think a game like Marvel's Avengers, which is a multi-platform game, with platform exclusives is not fine.
Agreed. See, so I think this is the crux of the matter, is that if you're going to make a platform exclusive game, by all means go ahead.
Yes.
But the moment you start adding exclusive content to a multi-platform title, content that is universally adored by people, okay? Because bear in mind, this is a very different situation to, like, let's say Final Fantasy making, a Spider-Man theme weapon
Yeah.
for their game.
Yeah,
It's not the same thing. This is a character who is part of the Avengers, literally part of the Avengers, but who is now not going to be able to appear in any of the titles except on PlayStation.
Exactly.
Now, I just want to speak a little bit more about this. So, for those who don't know, Sony technically has the movie rights to Spider-Man. So, many people have assumed that that deal is what is influencing the character now appearing only on their console. So, Crystal Dynamics and have actually come out on record and have said that there is some truth to that, but it's not the reason why, because technically Marvel owns the character from like a video game perspective, because otherwise Spider-Man wouldn't be able to appear in anything else.
Yeah.
However, they have strongly hinted at the fact that because of the movie relationship and the relationship that Sony does have with Marvel, that when the opportunity came up for them to add Spider-Man as a character, Square Enix jumped at it rather than saying, no, let's not do it. They just said, okay, cool, yes, let's do it, even if it's exclusive.
Exactly.
So essentially what this comes down to is Sony just being like, screw everybody else. We have the relationship. We're going to ask for the exclusivity.
See, but that doesn't make...
Look, I mean, I get what you're saying. It doesn't make it right. I know it doesn't. But they have that ability. So really, ultimately, Marvel is to blame for this.
Yeah.
If you think about it,
that's exactly what it is.
You can't fault Sony for wanting to add this character. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, if the opportunity exists, of course they're going to take it.
Exactly.
Marvel should have said no. Marvel should have stepped in and said, no, you're actually... we want everybody to play it.
But on that note, the official word from Marvel was actually, quote unquote, we saw a unique opportunity with this collaboration. Now that's fine and good. But if this unique opportunity, or rather, why is this a unique opportunity if we just saw Spider-Man release on Nintendo in that Marvel fighting game, Ultimate Alliance or whatever? Why did we just see Spider-Man?
Do you know what it is?
Now, a mobile game.
It's player base. We cannot deny that the PlayStation 4 has the biggest player base of all current generation consoles.
That's fine. But what about Nintendo?
It's money. It's money.
And if it was money, why is it not multi-platform?
Because, look, think about it like this, right? So my understanding is this game is not coming to Switch. This game is not. Yeah, so it's only coming to PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. So of the three, PlayStation has the biggest audience. So by pushing the character onto that platform means it's going to get the widest exposure, even if PC and Xbox have to suffer for it. Now, I don't agree with it.
That doesn't make sense.
Yes, it's just... I mean, I understand the other perspective as well. They really should release it on all platforms because then it gets the most exposure.
Exactly.
But I do feel maybe it was a bit of both. Marvel saying, cool, you can use the character, and then Sony saying, cool, but it must be exclusive. Because of the relationship they've got. Do you know what I mean?
But why is Marvel releasing Spider-Man on other games like Ultimate Alliance?
So basically, we went from not blaming Sony to blaming Marvel to being back to blaming Sony.
No, I'm blaming Marvel.
No, but think about it. Okay, look, we don't know for sure. We're only going on what has been released thus far. Like, for example, the Crystal Dynamics CEO, Scott Amos, and I quote, said, when it comes down to the choices of where and what Spider-Man can be, that's a relationship question that PlayStation absolutely has the rights to. That, as you guys know, with Sony's ownership there, and Marvel with Sony saying, hey, this is something we can do. This is something we can do on this platform. So ultimately, it really does seem like it was a PlayStation and Sony decision at the end of the day. Basically, I think it comes down to Sony has a relationship with Marvel to the point of where they're doing a lot of Spider-Man stuff, specifically when it comes to the movies. So possibly Spider-Man was never intended to be in the video game at all. But then Sony was like, but we kind of have the movie rights. Wouldn't it be cool if we also had the platform right? And then Marvel was like, okay, cool, go ahead.
That makes no sense.
I know it doesn't, but it's something to that effect, I would imagine. I think this movie deal is far more complex than a lot of us actually understand. Either way, to really just, end this topic now, it's a shitty thing to do for gamers. That's as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
It's for fans of Marvel and for gamers on the whole. Characters like this shouldn't be specific to a platform. It should be available to all, regardless of what kind of deals are in place, in my personal opinion. Either everybody should have the character, or nobody should have the character.
Exactly. In-game DLC shouldn't be platform exclusive.
Exactly. Well, actually speaking of that, maybe they have terms and conditions that say they can do whatever they want.
Maybe they do.
Which leads us to our very next topic.
Yeah.
Everyone knows about terms and conditions. Yes, right? I'm curious now. I want to pose this question, not just to you, Edward, but to anyone who's listening. Do you ever read them? Genuinely.
Hardly ever.
No one ever does, okay? The biggest lie on the internet is that people say that when they're clicking agree, that they're saying yes, they read it. Nobody ever does. So if you are like 99% of the population and you don't, there is actually an incredible website called Terms of Service Didn't Read, which is a play on Too Long Didn't Read, which originates from Reddit. And it's just a really great website that allows you to upfront see what services and websites retain or what they have in their terms and conditions and what you're actually agreeing to. And it's quite a cool system because they actually also have ratings. So they grade services and websites with sort of an alphabetic grade, with A being the best and then all the way down to whatever letter is available. I'm assuming E, and there's a reason for this, and that's because Facebook has been rated E according to Terms of Service Didn't Read. Interestingly, I also saw that your favorite website, Edward, Pornhub, is rated
my favorite
E.
website, nohow. But yeah, I saw that as well. It's quite interesting.
So, look, it's quite a fascinating website, and it's really interesting to see what is actually in these terms of service. So, like for example, two of the big ones for Facebook and Pornhub, and the reason why they're rated E is because you actually you sign away your moral rights when you click agree, which is just crazy. The fact that that's even in there is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's weird.
Anyway, a fascinating website, definitely well worth looking into. And as always, we will link in the show notes.
Yeah.
So on the topic of possible terms and conditions and, whether you read them or not, there was something else that I remember reading a couple of years back, and it was how actually this one gentleman did read these terms and conditions, and he actually found a clause where it said, if you find this, you'll get $1,000. And he actually emailed it in and they paid him.
That's cool.
Now, of course, maybe that's just a fake story to get people to read the T's and C's. But I'd like to believe it was true and it worked well.
Well, to be fair, I wouldn't put it past companies like Digital Devolver or, companies
yeah.
I wouldn't put it past companies like that.
I would imagine Tesla doing something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, like I can just see Elon Musk be all impressive that this guy actually read it.
Now, in terms of T's and C's, often it is important to read them, especially if you want any kind of legal recourse. Just in case you feel that a company has done something against you, you might actually be allowed to, pursue some sort of a legal avenue to getting money back or something to that effect. Now, that's leading me into something a little bit different. So I know we were talking about T's and C's, etc., but I found something really fascinating, and I actually broached it with Edward a couple of days ago, and he was just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
There's been a variety of studies, almost 30, which actually look at attractiveness and how you are judged in a criminal case.
I don't understand how that gets by the justice system at all.
So it all has to do with human bias. And if anyone remembers, we actually spoke about biases in episode 23 and how they obviously can inform your opinions and choices and things that you do on a daily basis. So with this in mind, there was actually, I assume lawyer, might not be, by the name of Rod Hollier. And he compiled the research of these roughly 30 studies. And it was all about how physical attractiveness, so the way you look, had a significant influence on your sentence, particularly when it came to the jury and the judges and how they determined your guilt.
That actually explains why the movie protagonists never get long sentences.
No, man. Look, it's a fascinating thing because technically, like the gist of it is that the more unattractive the criminal, the higher the sentence. And the more attractive the criminal, the less the sentence. To the point of where they found that the minimum increase of a sentence, depending on how unattractive a person was 120% higher conviction, with a maximum increase of over 300%. That's is crazy. Significant. That is not a small number of cases.
And that's among cases that have the same circumstances.
Yes. So,
jeez.
Rod Hollier did a really great job of breaking down these, 27, 30 cases. And he goes into diagrams and tables, and it's really fascinating. And I implore you all to actually go and read it. Rather, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just give you a sort of a brief overview of what came out of these studies.
Yeah.
And so, as I mentioned before, we spoke about biases. Now, people are human, Everybody has biases. And so jurors and judges, because they're human and they're not infallible, are, predisposed to, other cognitive distortions. It's just the way that life is, and those include, emotive evidence, the time of day, remorse for the defendant, socioeconomic status, race, gender, and there's a few more. So the physicality and attractiveness of a defendant is now just another factor. And what was most interesting about this, and this is the big one, is it's not cognitive. So it's very much an unconscious process. And this comes down to your basal sexual characteristics, whereby, if you are physically attracted to someone, regardless of whether you think the person is attractive, your body automatically has a reaction, like widening of the pupils, sweat, that kind of thing. So the end result is that the judges and jurors are not doing it on purpose. They're not actively choosing more beautiful people to give lesser sentences to. It's more of a subconscious basal instinct that takes over without anyone actually realizing. And that brings me to what you said earlier about why, people in movies and TV shows have such small sentences. But it's more to do with the fact that everyone on TV is beautiful, and there's a reason for that. It's because the general populace responds better to it.
Exactly.
I mean, I know that's a weird thing to say or to talk about, but it's genuinely just the truth.
It's basically what Jasper can do in Twilight, just naturally.
Yes. Speaking of, sorry, just to interject there, I'm actually reading Midnight Sun. I actually forgot to mention that earlier.
I forgot you did read it.
But it's fine. We'll speak about that next week, and we'll refer back to this. So anyway, coming back to the study, one of the other reasons why people favored more attractive people is because they're often perceived to be more intelligent, more socially skilled, more appealing, more moral, more altruistic. So don't you think that's fascinating? Because do you remember how we spoke about the voices and attraction in episode 25, how deep voice implies certain things. So This is just the next level of it. So it's interesting to think that from a visual perspective, using your eyes as a sense, you automatically have these physiological responses, but they're also present even if you can't see the person. It's just fascinating to me. Anyway,
cool.
As I mentioned before, jurors and judges don't do this on purpose. It's very much like a reflex. And basically, if you're good looking, you stand a better chance of getting off crime if you decide to want to rob something. Now, of course, beauty is subjective, so you do so at your own risk. This is not an endorsement.
Well, now I just imagine Kim Kardashian going and robbing a bank tomorrow or something.
But this could also be why celebrities get off so easily. Think about that for a second. Celebrities are beautiful. Is that actually what you meant?
No. You've understood me correctly.
Okay. Yeah. It's a really fascinating topic about how beauty and physical attractiveness has an impact on whether or not you get sentenced. Now,
Yeah.
of course, I'm sure there's more to it than this. Like, what do they mean by beauty? Is it like the Western version? Anyway, there's so much we could talk about, but if we did, it would be a whole episode. So,
Yeah, it's beauty's in
now-
the eye of the beholder.
yes. The beer holder or just the beholder? Either way, I suppose.
Both.
Now, where you shouldn't be getting drunk is an aeroplane.
Yes. Well, many people do. That's the
You shouldn't. Or rather, if you do, make sure it's after the first 5 minutes of the flight and before the last 8 minutes of your flight. And there's a specific reason for this.
yeah.
Now, I haven't spoken much about travel in Gettle because no one's been able to travel.
Because of obvious reasons. Because
But
life.
I love traveling, and I've done a lot of it, as Edward can attest to. And, we've actually spoken about this, like, what would I do if I traveled with Gettle? I'm like, I will make time. I will make time for Gettle. Now, with that in mind, everybody knows about those pre-flight videos, where you have to, you listen to the air hostess and they're telling you what to do, or et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Just like terms and conditions, nobody ever pays attention to
But really,
what,
no.
to what they're saying. Now, something that I found on YouTube, and the reason why I found it is because I've been watching a lot of videos on Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, which I think is just phenomenal. It looks absolutely fascinating. But let me not digress. So I came across this video called The Honest Pre-Flight Safety Video. And it's done by a man called Doug Lansky, who's a TEDx speaker and tourism advisor. And what he does is he just goes through a quick couple of minutes of the actual facts of what you need when flying. So, often when anybody flies, you get these multi-million-dollar videos of, beautiful air hostesses showing you what to do, et cetera, which nobody ever watches. Now, what he does is he cuts out all of the BS, and he basically just says, listen, you got to listen to this. Because according to the FAA, 60% of people don't pay attention to the safety video. And that is an enormous amount. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, with that in mind, there are a few other statistics, and I'm just going to quickly just run into this. 95% of people will survive a normal crash, and 55% of people will survive a serious crash. So it stands to reason why you should pay attention.
That's good odds, though.
Yeah, they're great odds, never mind. I mean, there's actually another statistic a little bit later on where you only 1 in 11 million chance of actually dying in an airplane, whereas you are more likely to be bitten by a shark.
If you ever swim.
If you ever swim, right? Hashtag thalassophobia. Now, with that in mind, 80% of problems in terms of flights normally happen within the first 3 minutes to takeoff and within the 8 minutes of the flight. So it's highly recommended that during those times, you keep your shoes on. Now, I'm guilty of taking my shoes off almost immediately when I get into a plane. Now, I won't ever again, courtesy of this. So, basically, keep your goods packed away and your shoes on within the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes of the flight.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does, right? Now, in terms of the safest seats on the airline, they are actually the ones that are facing the opposite direction to you. So normally the ones where people, like air hostesses, are sitting. And there's a very good reason for that. And that's because in an incident, they would help you. So it makes sense for them to have the safest seat. In addition to that, it's also seats over wings. And that's just because it's the most structurally sound part of the airplane. So when you're booking your plane tickets, not the front, not the back, the middle.
That actually makes so much sense, and I never thought of that. It's literally just basic science. Physics.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, also, they recommend that you know where the exits are. Now, this one sounds fairly obvious, but he just says that count the rows to the doors. Because if there's an incident and there's a lot of smoke and you can't see, how will you know where the exit is? And it makes a lot of sense because you can obviously count the seats, Anyway, that's just one example. Leave your crap behind, ladies and gentlemen, in an emergency.
Including your phone, your laptop, whatever.
Don't try and go for your stuff. Just leave it. It's replaceable.
It's all replaceable.
Okay.
Yeah.
However, with that said, and this is a personal anecdote from my side, is keep your passport on you. Now, this is important for a variety of reasons. First of all, you don't want to be stranded in another place in the world without any form of identification. That's number one. Number two, if you do happen to die in a plane crash and you have your passport on you, at least they can identify you. I know that's a bit morbid, but it's just one of those things to take into consideration. Mm-hmm. Now, there's some more interesting things to it, like how food carts are a menace. as somebody who is 6'4", I can tell you firsthand how many times I've been bruised by carts going up and down the aisle, whether it's my shoulders or my knees. So they are horrendous in terms of emergencies as well. I won't go through too much more. And there we go. That is the honest pre-flight safety video. I'm very curious to know what you all thought. What did you think of some of the facts that we spoke about today? As always, we will link directly to the video so you can, check it out. Let us know what you think. And yeah, that's that segment.
Moving on to another video.
Oh, man. So this one was something I also found, which I thought was hilarious. It's
cool.
basically Harry Potter with guns. It's just really funny. But we can't talk about it much, to be perfectly honest.
You have to see it. You really have to see it.
No, but there's another reason why. And that's because Warner Brothers copyright strike the damn thing.
Yep.
Now, we did manage to find a download. So we may link to that so that you can actually still watch it.
We'll post it on Google Drive or something.
Or something.
Yeah.
What I will say about it, though, is that it's phenomenally well done. Mm-hmm. And I don't think this was the original intention, but it's kind of become a PSA for gun violence. Because there's actually a website for it now called harrypotterwithguns.com.
That's cool.
That's
actually cool.
They have this whole thing about gun violence in America and how, guns aren't a joke, and they have resources for gun violence. It's an interesting take. Now, I don't know if it's the creator of the original video who did that or if it was somebody else who saw the video and decided to do it. Either way, it's fascinating. It deserves to be watched. And that's going to lead me on to something else that was sent in by one of our dedicated listeners, Vic Hardfella.
Yeah.
Before I describe it, we're going to let you listen to a little bit of it.
Something's a malo. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. What did you think?
I think it's... Who has the time to do this?
Do you know who it is? Did you recognize the voice?
Well, yeah. I also saw the title.
Okay, so for our listeners, it's this fascinating video on YouTube called If Cardi B Did the Sound Effects for Star Wars. Now, possibly just listening to it might just sound like, what the hell are you doing? But paired with the imagery, it is phenomenal.
It is. The way it syncs up is so good.
And the way Edward said, who has time for this? Who has time to put together? Well, then again, who has time for Harry Potter with guns? I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. Gosh.
Now moving on to something a little bit more explosive, pun intended. Anyone who's been paying attention to the news recently will know about the huge explosion in Beirut.
Yeah.
Well, we're not going to specifically talk about that. We will mention a little bit of it. Long story short, it was ammonium nitrate that wasn't looked after for a couple of years. And it just was a perfect storm of circumstances, and 2,700 tons of the stuff blew up.
To be fair, if you're going to weld, you better damn well make sure the area around you is safe. Because people don't care, and now this happened.
Look, it's more that there's so much more to that than this. This is just government incompetence to the extreme. I mean, this stuff has been sitting there for 6 years, Edward. 6 years.
Yeah.
Because ammonium nitrate is not just explosive on its own.
No.
There has to be a certain criteria for it, meaning like lack of ventilation and fire nearby, etc., etc. Because I mean, the stuff is used in mining explosives, so. Yeah, it needs to be looked after. I mean, just some quick facts about the explosion. It caused a 140-meter wide crater. It blew windows out over 9 kilometers from the initial explosion. It was heard as far away as Cyprus, which is 200 kilometers away from Beirut.
It flattened.
Seismographs picked it up as a 3.3 magnitude earthquake.
Earthquake, yeah. That's the scariest bit of it all.
It's crazy.
Well,
so, with this in mind, hey, Edwin, we found something cool.
Yes. So the question is, what do you do if, let's say, you're one of these many people who
I
were
know,
filming?
you film it.
Yeah. Well, if you were one of these people who were filming the thing, and you saw the second big explosion, because obviously it was a tiny little fire at
You're
first.
right. Yeah, that's right, because it was two. It was the first
Yes.
one that preluded the massive
To the
one.
big one.
Yeah.
And all the videos start with the little one, and most of them end with the big one. So if you are this person that's filming this thing and you see the big one happen, what you should do to protect yourself is, number one, don't film it in the first place.
Yeah. Actually, you shouldn't even be waiting for the second explosion.
Exactly.
If you see something like that, just look away. Everybody.
Exactly. Turn around, close your eyes, open your mouth, apparently, and just don't face the blast.
Well, look, there's actually a little bit more to it. So what Edward has mentioned is spot on. Is get away from things that can hurt you. Like, move away from the windows, y'all. That's like number one, okay? And if you're on a balcony, move inside, because that balcony is going to be gone in a few seconds. Anyway, essentially, shockwaves can be incredibly damaging. And it's interesting because we actually spoke about whales. I think it was in one of the first couple of episodes of Gettle, who actually have... they not sonars. Their voices can actually go so high they can destroy humans. Now, interestingly enough, it's very much related to like a shockwave, whereby it can destroy your internal organs. That's how it essentially works. Now, in terms of shockwaves from bombs or explosions or anything like that, if you want to actually protect yourself, you need to find some sort of structure to get behind. Now, this is not, we were talking about like a wall or something, but at the same time, it's got to be sturdy and hopefully something that won't collapse onto you. So one of the best things they say is to find like a ditch in the ground. But yes, of course, how many people are going to have a ditch in their apartment? Anyway, I digress. Basically, just stay away from like openings. Okay, first of all, get to like a sturdy wall as possible. Get onto the ground as quickly as possible and sort of go into like a prone position, okay? Or rather, it's like a plank. Anyone who's done planks in the gym will know what I'm talking about here. Where you go onto your elbows, you don't let your abdomen touch the floor, okay? You stick your thumbs into your ears, your fingers over your eyes, and you open your mouth.
Yeah.
Now, there's good reasons for this. First of all, your hands over your eyes are to prevent your eyes from popping out. Your thumbs in your ears are to prevent your eardrums from exploding. And the reason why you don't put your abdomen on the ground is because of the way shockwaves work and how they can reverberate off hard surfaces. So doing all of this will give you a much higher chance of surviving. So if you're somewhere in the world and you see a mushroom cloud in the distance, assume this position behind a wall or in a ditch. That's basically, that's all that I have to say about that.
And you should be fine. So...
Well, we can't guarantee how good you'll be, but
naturally, don't go hanging around explosive areas.
Yeah, because otherwise, all you're going to end up doing is moaning and groaning from all the pain,
and not from the pleasure.
I'm so glad you got that one.
There we go. You made it super obvious for me, to be fair, and I thank you for that.
Oh no! For hold on, everybody. Here it is. That's the jingle. The best time of Gettle. Now we all know from episode 25 that Edward, as Ian, one of our dedicated listeners, mentioned, he was caught with his proverbial pants down because we didn't have any NSFW content. Well. Let me tell you, everybody, he has more than made up for it. So much so, we've had to move some of the content to next week.
Yeah. I found a few interesting stuff, which is super interesting, and you might find it interesting, and I found it interesting.
No, it's genuinely interesting. I mean, just a quick one. So, for the first time ever in the history of Gettle, Edward and I actually sat the day before we recorded and managed to talk about what we were going to record. Because normally we just do everything Friday morning and then, do everything on the Friday. Yes. What was great about this, though, was that we could actually look through it all. However, it piqued my interest so much. I was like, just stop. I'm not even going to read these things because I just want to be blown away about what Edward has to say about them. And so, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Hashtag NSFW time.
Well, I hope it's as good as you make it out to be.
Listen, okay, anyway, let's just go.
Anyway,
go. Tell me about the moans, Edward.
Okay, so did you know that there are no normal moans and grunts and noises that you make during any activity?
Hold on. So you mean to tell me that Pornhub has lied?
Of course. You don't believe everything you see online, Hans.
No wonder they got that E rating. Okay.
Exactly. So the thing is, obviously, a moan is normally attributed to sex and pleasure, whereas grunts is usually the stereotypical male thing to do.
Yeah.
Turns out that people do different kind of things, different times and differently. So in this one post I found,
so not all grunts are equal. Is this what you're saying?
Grunts, moans,
but
even
then at
silence.
the same time, because they're not equal, they
mean different things, but also not.
Okay. Tell me more.
So in this post I found, the post basically breaks down the three main categories, which is moans, number 1, grunts, number 2, and silence, number 3.
I'm number 3.
Well, actually, I messed up the order, but it comes down to the same thing.
Okay, well.
So it starts with...
Wait. Before, which one are you? Which one are you now? Of the 3?
I don't know. It's like a mixture between moans and silence, I guess.
Okay, not grunts?
No, I don't do grunts.
I think, to be perfectly honest, I think I'm grunt in silence.
Like imagine, like...
It's like, I can't even.
Or as we'll mention later, as tennis players go like, like.
So
that's a grunt.
I know that some of you out there are probably going to be practicing your own. So.
Well, you actually should, turns out, because.
What? Okay, wait. Sorry, I keep derailing this. So
yes.
Go back. So there's 3 of them, and you were going to talk to them. Okay.
Okay, so let me start from the beginning, from the top. So this post, which I found on Lilo.com, it's a fascinating website that I only recently discovered.
Yeah.
Turns out that no normal moan is the same, obviously.
Yeah.
And beginning with grunts. So according to Lorraine McCune from the Rutgers University, grunts tend to result in physical exertion. So obviously... grunts mean if you play tennis
kind of
or
obvious,
if you
though.
gym.
Okay, this might be a bit TMI.
Yeah.
I think, do you know why I'm mostly silent?
Why?
Because I'm silent in the gym as well.
So you're very aware of yourself.
I just had a very self-awareness thing of how my gym and sex
well, it's good you are. It's good you are, Hans, because as much as you are aware of the fact that you grunt and sometimes get loud or not get loud, rather, it turns out that grunting can actually increase your physical power, for lack of a better descriptor, in bed. So as Lorraine McCune says, and I'm going to read verbatim now.
Yeah.
According to McCune, metabolic demand under certain conditions activate intercostal muscles in order to maintain... Those are the ones
between your ribs, just for those
That's exactly, yeah. In order to maintain lung inflation during expiration sets in motion, reflect contraction of laryngeal muscles. So as you said, it's the muscles below the rib.
So in a way, it's saying that these are very guttural because they happen because
it happens. It's a natural thing that happens.
I see.
So that in turn creates a system under pressure that lengthens the expiration phase of the breath and enhances the oxygenation of the blood.
Okay. So basically, it's physiological, and the reason why grunts happen is because of the body reacting to the stimulus.
Yes. So essentially, it just happens.
Very interesting.
Many people will just grunt. And if you actively suppress that, it might be beneficial for you to stop doing that.
Yeah, I see that now because you're writing here that by suppressing it, therefore it would have an effect on the oxygen levels, right?
Yes,
That
and
is
oxygen
fascinating.
promotes circulation, and what does circulation promote? Orgasms and pleasure. But basically, what it comes down to, like tennis players, it's been found that tennis players who grunt have a 3.8%.
You always hear them screaming on the field.
Yes, they have
the court,
3.8% better serve velocity
Wow.
than those
Ooh.
who opt not to.
So 3.8% better serve velocity.
Serve, yeah. Are you a server or a catcher? You know my drift. So essentially,
Wow.
grunts equal powerful pumps.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
the gist of it.
Now, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but you have a note here where it goes, moaning is entirely
Yes.
different.
Yes.
Tell me
So-
more.
So
'Cause,
the second,
I don't know if anybody can hear that, but my cat is here and he's moaning at the moment.
I just heard it. I don't think it'll pick up in the mic, to be fair, but I heard it over the phone. That's exactly the moment you spoke about it. I heard
It's so
it.
funny. He's in here moaning. I'm like, go away, kitty. This is not the right time.
Like, not now.
or maybe right now.
Maybe.
Okay, so okay. So
So-
you were saying,
so-
yeah?
The post carries on that basically we can all agree that moans exist everywhere, not just in
Of
the
course.
bedroom.
Yeah.
It's basically when you eat good food, you moan. If you stretch
What?
deeply,
How?
you moan.
How?
You do it without knowing. You may do it silently, but you still do. Like, have you
But
ever?
why? Is this because of like enjoyment?
Yes, it's literal pleasure that creates moaning.
Wow.
But also the very
Oh wait. So it could be like, this is so good.
Yes, that's a moan. That's literally a moan. But the reason humans do it in the first place all goes down, or all devolves back to the fact that we prefer to communicate in short bursts, not long, extensive.
Short bursts is definitely the right way.
Exactly. So basically, according to this post, the words we use most tend to be shorter and not longer. It's
Hang on. Oh, I see. Okay, this is particularly for intercourse. Okay.
well,
Very,
it's-
okay, no, carry on.
it's-
Interesting. It's super interesting.
Yeah. So basically, in other words, I would much rather say, or I would much rather go, this is good, than
Yes,
going,
yes.
this food is delicious.
Oh no, or like, oh, this food is so tantalizing. My taste buds are singing with ultimate joy.
Exactly. If you do that, people will probably think you're a pompous asshole. You know,
Well,
versus
I'm
just
assuming
going,
you can do that in the
delicious.
bed as well.
So in bed, it translates directly to the bed as well. Instead of saying yes, keep going, or oh, this is so good, go faster, or keep doing
Yeah,
exactly the same, your partner will probably just moan, and you'll just subconsciously know to keep doing what you're doing or carrying on.
Okay, but
It's
that seems a bit self-obvious, self-evident.
it
you
is
know,
self-evident, but
Because
that's
the thing
exactly
is, you
what
can
it comes
always
down to.
tell if a moan is good or bad.
Yes,
You know,
obviously.
like and or
Yes.
like
Not like that. Yes, you are 100% correct, and
okay.
the reason we moan is just to keep it brief. That's the gist of the
That's very
communication side of moaning.
Yes,
But
yes.
also, moaning doesn't increase pleasure the same way grunting does, but it's to
Right.
display the pleasure more
I
than that
see. So it's more of a direct result of pleasure.
of the pleasure. Yes.
So like grunting is because of exertion getting
Yes.
to pleasure, but moaning is a result of pleasure.
exactly.
That makes sense. Now,
But-
okay, hold on. Now I need you to get to the silent bit already
Yes.
because
Yeah. So as I said earlier, there are 3 types, and silence is one of them. So if you are a silent boy, well, there is some
Yes.
good news for you.
Okay.
So the consensus, or at least among
Oh,
unexperienced
gosh, it's
individuals,
the least sexy option. That explains a lot.
The consensus seems to be, or at least on surface level, is that if you're silent, you're not getting any pleasure out of it, or you're not contributing to the pleasure.
Yes.
Turns out that that's not necessarily the case. According to a sex therapist, Nan, I forgot the full name, Nan White. According to her, being silent might just mean that you're internalizing your pleasure.
Yes, that
pleasure.
actually makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. So if you are a very silent individual to begin with, if you are someone who usually keep things in, chances are you're this kind of person who focuses on the you.
Look, this is this is fascinating to me because I'm not necessarily loud as a person, but I have been told that I'm very, not I don't know if bubbly is the right word, but I'm very speak a lot, and I'm always told to keep quiet.
You are bubbly though,
but not when it comes to gym and other activities.
Yeah,
it's just very interesting to me. It's okay. Anyway,
it's a good kind of interesting. To be fair,
yeah.
So whether you grunt, whether you moan, whether you're silent, as long as your partner knows what you are all about, chances are you're fine. It's all about the ways we exert pleasure and the ways we show pleasure. So don't be scared of being silent.
No, this has been great. Honestly, this has actually answered a lot of questions I didn't know I had.
Exactly.
This is very, very, very interesting.
The conclusion is just that if you are silent or if you moan a lot, try grunting or try just moaning more. And at the end of the day, maybe your partner will get a little bit of a bonus out of that.
Especially during ejaculation. Hey,
exactly. Especially during ejaculation. Because as it turns out...
Leading to the next point.
Exactly. So many women, most women, if you go up to them and ask them, obviously don't randomly go to a woman on the streets and ask them.
Of course not.
But when most women are asked about which kind of ejaculate they have, you'll be met with 3 different outcomes. Number one is there are more than one.
That's interesting to me because men are so basic. There's only one.
Yeah, it's only the one.
But of course, we're like these super dumbass simple creatures,
Yeah, I'm a simple man. I see a boob, I click like.
Okay, cool. So 3 answers. Yes, carry on.
Yes. So basically, number 1 is there are more than one. Number 2 is the usual, the milky white fluid that it's usually in the form of a goopiness. And number 3 is no, there's a lot. It looks like I wet the bed.
Now, bear in mind, for those of you who are good listeners of Ghetto, we did speak about how the pH of these vaginal fluids is a bit like coffee and why it discolors your clothing.
Stuff.
Anyway.
Yeah, including your beds and stuff, depending. If you are a squirter.
I didn't mean to segue it, but sometimes I just love the stuff we learn because it's fascinating to me as well, and I love that I can just bring it back into a future episode like this. Okay, anyway.
So it turns out that both of those ejaculates are actually, they are ejaculate because many, especially women who squirt and their partners, sometimes they think, no, it's just pee. Turns out that... I mean,
until we spoke, I actually had no idea that there was urine involved. I actually just thought it was a mass fluid expulsion, but not urine.
Yeah, so
this is very interesting to me. It's a very interesting topic.
Yeah, so as I said, the internet consensus seems to be that it's just pee. That something happens in the in the female body, and they just pee on orgasm. So a few scientists went out and actually studied and tested what it actually is.
Yes.
So what they did is that they recruited 7 women.
Yeah.
And what they did was
fish.
What they did was they asked these women to provide urine samples and empty their
Yes.
bladders. Then they ultrasound scanned their pelvis sections in order to see if their bladders were actually empty.
Okay. Yeah.
Then they asked the women to stimulate themselves, either through sex or masturbation or whatever.
Yes. Yes.
And then right on the verge of orgasming, they get another ultrasound. And then they do the orgasm.
yes.
And then the liquids get collected and studied.
Okay.
And then a third ultrasound happens afterwards to see exactly what's going on.
Yes.
And turns out that even though all these women had their bladders
We're empty.
emptied,
Yes. Yes.
like completely empty right before
Yes.
stimulation, the act of stimulation actually refilled their bladders to the max.
That is incredible.
Yeah, so they had nothing to drink. They just they went to the toilet and peed. They went into bed with their partners, and just those 20 to 60 minutes of pleasure refilled their bladders completely.
That's
And
incredible.
So basically,
and then after the deed, the bladders were empty.
yes. So basically, the third
It's
scan showed that
fascinating.
the bladders were empty again, which means the squirting that happened during the orgasm was
Yes.
indeed, or it did indeed come from the bladder.
That is wow.
So obviously the obvious takeaway is this. Yeah, okay, so it is pee, but also it's not.
Yes.
Because the entire act of all this happening created a brand new chemical reaction within the bladder and within the pee, which actually proves it to be a form of ejaculate. So according to this study, a chemical analysis on the fluid samples revealed that prostatic-specific antigens,
Okay.
which is PSA...
That is incredibly fascinating
Yeah.
to me. Wow.
So this
okay.
PSAs, which comes from the skin glands, which is many scientists still don't know what their actual use is for, but they resemble a male's prostate.
Yes, this is what I was going to say. So just the other day, in a separate conversation, I was actually talking to a cousin of mine, and we were talking about how before genders are formed in the womb, we're technically all female.
Yeah,
And
we
then
all started as female.
through the course of hormones, we change. So it therefore stands to reason that we might have those kinds of those kinds of organs within the body.
Yes, that's fascinating to me because, as it turns out, males have prostates, females don't. But
Yes.
females have skin glands, which no one knows what they actually do besides.
Which they technically shouldn't because they're female.
Exactly.
Oh, this is
So
fascinating.
this antigens, this PSA, what they found in the study is that all these antigens are inside the urine, which gets squirted out during the orgasm, which essentially makes it another form of ejaculate all on its own.
So just a quick one. The reason why I know about PSA is because when you're in your 30s, it is advised that you go for prostate checks for prostate
Yes.
cancer and testicular
At least
cancer.
once a year.
Yes.
yeah.
So I went for one last year, and that's how I actually found out about it, because this is the modern way of testing whether or not you have cancer, which is
Yeah.
a lot better than the finger in the rectum, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Very, very interesting.
So the conclusion to this study was that yes, squirting isn't just pee. It includes pee, but it is actually ejaculate. So there are two forms.
Well,
But
yeah, I see here you're about to get to the points of contest, right?
yes, so apparently among the scientists and everyone, there is actually a bit of a back and forth saying
Well, I mean,
that no,
I would imagine
this
so.
this
because
isn't ejaculate. How can
Yeah.
it be? It's pee. So Everly White, a neurophysicist from the Rutgers University,
yes.
actually says that no, female ejaculation should only refer to the production of the small amount of white fluid that many
Yes.
other women report, and not the amount of urine that comes out in the squirting that other women report.
Yes, yes.
But then this
Another
other
scientist.
scientist from also Rutgers called
Yes.
Barry Kamasurak. Sorry if I'm butchering your name. So Barry says no, but there is concrete evidence, thanks to the study, that it is ejaculate. So people are still up about it and arguing about it. But yeah.
Well, what do you, the audience, think now that you've heard about this? Should it be considered? Shouldn't it be considered?
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah, like personally, I think
I'm going to say yes from what I read here. Yeah, I'm going to say
and then
yes.
Not only do we have evidence that proves that, but personally, I think that if it happens on the peak of an orgasm,
this is going to give away for a lot about me. But like, I wonder what it tastes like.
Why? I mean, no. Wondering what it tastes like is good, but what is it going to give away? I don't know. I'm curious. I mean, we all know what the normal one ejaculate tastes like, but I mean, I haven't had the pleasure of being with somebody who squirts, so I'm just curious. I mean, you know, they mention here how it's like urine, but like, would it taste like it? You know? Yeah.
You know? I know. So it's a random question.
Either way, it's a good question.
If y'all out there have, let us know what it tastes like.
Yeah.
Hans wants to know. So speaking of what happens when you're pleasured, to the acts of pleasure.
Yeah. So basically...
Well, the best kinds of acts, in my personal opinion, okay?
is oral sex. According to many people. like it's one thing to stick it in there and get it over and done with. It's an entirely different thing to be intimate with someone, to go through the entire process of...
Well, it should be intimate. I mean...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I found another super interesting post that's all about the oral sex.
Say it like you've written it right there.
Oral sex is good for you.
Hell yeah.
So according to studies published in the Journal of Reproductive Immunology, of all things,
I love that it's like this proper dedicated journal, and it's not just like Penthouse or, you know, Playboy or something.
Yeah. It's or actually
Men's
got
Health
some
or some
backing.
other rubbish. Yeah.
According to this journal, oral sex is very, very, very good for you for a number of reasons. The first and foremost being that it actually helps to build up in immunization.
Immunization.
There we go.
Immunization.
It helps to do that for the female body, and especially in terms of carrying babies. So
how?
So basically, thanks to the build-up of antibodies.
Where, on the penis?
No, on the vagina. If a man performs oral sex on a woman, it actually builds up antibodies and immunizes. I can't say this word. The female body, and it helps to prevent miscarriages.
What?
Yeah.
What? And this is a legitimate study.
It is I mean, it's in the journal. I don't know how many studies were done for it. I couldn't find more on it except for this.
Incredible. That is fascinating.
Yeah.
So y'all out there who are trying, you gotta be eating your wives out.
Yeah, maybe just go down a little bit more.
That's
obviously.
Hang on. That's why? Is that because? I mean,
I think it's because of the bacteria on the tongue.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking. You're actually introducing bacteria, so therefore it increases the vagina's ability to compensate for these foreign bodies. Therefore,
I think so.
Ensuring that, you know, when you're attempting to reproduce and you're harboring life, that there's less of a possibility of a miscarriage because of these foreign bodies that have strengthened it. Kind of like the immune system.
Yes.
What? That is incredible.
I actually did try to find the actual numbers on it. I couldn't. But my Google foo is bad, to be fair. But yeah, apparently it does help. It's like eating more fruits in order not to get sick. You might get sick anyway.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you'll have a better time with it. But
Wow.
also, according to this post that I found on Medium, which is honestly a bad platform in my opinion, for multiple reasons. According to this post, there are 3 more reasons why you should perform oral sex on your partner.
I'm listening.
So
not that we needed 3 more reasons to do it. But,
exactly. I mean, it turns out that the first and most obvious, well, not the obvious, but the largest reason people perform oral sex is actually to strengthen a relationship satisfaction
by what
among their partners,
and because to reduce infidelity. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I can believe that. Not speaking from whatever partner I'm with, but myself.
Yeah.
Yes, that would keep me around. That would make me stay.
It would, but what I find weird about it is, why would oral sex, of all things, increase the satisfaction and not just everything?
It feels so good.
It does, but listen to us men talk about it.
In many respects, I do think it's also a little bit more personal. I know that the body's the body, right?
Yeah.
But, you're putting a very intimate point of your body onto your face. Or around your face. I know
you're getting sad
strange,
on,
but
and that's quite intimate.
No, but you know what I mean? It's taking a very vulnerable aspect and you're putting it into, or you're putting it around something that is more visual. I mean, like hear me out, right? So like your face, everybody sees. It's your mouth. It's what you speak out of. So to let that part of your body get in touch with something that's intimate, that isn't seen by many other people, I mean, also think about your mouth and your teeth. That can cause damage. So it's also like trust. I mean, the vagina doesn't have teeth. So when you're inserting yourself, you don't have to worry about anything.
I'm getting weird images now.
Just as an example, I'm just giving you an example. So I think it's also got to do with a lot about trust. And, it works the other way around as well. If a dude is going down on a lady, also the teeth, the mouth, you know what I mean? You can cause damage if you're not careful.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah. So that's possibly, wow.
Yeah, so number one reason is relationship satisfaction. The second reason why oral sex is beneficial actually relates to the fact that semen houses antidepressants. Now, when we spoke about it yesterday, Hans, we thought it's a general thing, but I actually read more up about it, and turns out that semen does indeed contain antidepressant elements.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing about this a lot because I'm so going to use this as a lie.
Fine, that's fine.
It's like I'm saying,
hey baby,
but baby, it's a natural antidepressant.
Yeah, like you're an emo. You're so emo lately. Let's have a little sucky.
Oh gosh. Okay,
that's so wrong actually, but yeah. At
I know.
End of the day, that is the truth of it. So according to an article published by Michael Castleman.
I'm reading okay, just carry on. I'm reading ahead. That like quote you've got there, that is just like, not only have you blown my mind now with the whole miscarriage thing, but sorry, just to cut ahead, but like it spurs ovulation and makes women feel happier?
Yes.
What?
So this quote in particular comes down to the fact that...
wait. Hold on.
Yeah.
I don't want to poke holes in this, but the study was done by a man, right?
At least the guy was called Michael Castleman.
You see, this is why we need these kinds of studies to be done by lady scientists.
Or
I'm not saying that they're wrong.
Either way.
Oh my gosh.
The study says that, or rather, this quote that you mentioned from Michael Castleman, it revolves around actual semen as it stimulates the vagina and not just the mouth. So according to...
Wait. So, but hang on. Now, is this when it's orally taken or when it's into the vagina?
Both. So basically, semen contains antidepressants,
which we've covered.
Chemicals.
Great. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you swallow, rather, chances are you'll be happier if you tend to have depressive thoughts. The same applies if you get semen in your vagina, because your body absorbs the semen, it absorbs those qualities.
Oh, wow.
So according to the study, more or rather, let me quote because I forgot the actual quote, but women who expose their vaginas to semen reportedly show significantly fewer depressive symptoms and express fewer bouts of depression than women who usually have sex with condoms.
Okay, but hold on. Now, this study, did it include the use of birth control?
No. There is no mention of it.
Okay, now that's something I'm curious about. And the reason why I'm asking this question is because if you're conducting a study between heterosexual cis couples, right, male and female, and the women are on birth control, chemical birth control, that would automatically influence their moods.
Yes.
Artificially.
Yes, because birth control does that.
Yes, so I'm curious now if they took that into consideration for the study. Now, I haven't read it myself. I'm purely going on what Edward has found.
Yeah.
That's a genuine question for me, though, because if they haven't taken that into consideration, then the study is skewed.
No, it's just on normal means only.
So, what I mean is they would actually have to test this without any kind of contraceptive use to really get an understanding of if it actually makes a difference. Look, either way, I think it's fascinating.
See, I assume that's what they did, but I haven't seen the full study. Okay, I haven't read the entire journal.
If we assume that the female counterparts or participants in the study are all on birth control, regardless.
Yes.
And then they did the study with and without male prophylactics. Then I could be like, okay, that sort of makes sense. But that's still an outlier. So, you know, the reason why I'm looking at this and I'm poking holes in this is because I have a research background. So, I look at this and now I have to wonder, did they take that into... Anyway. So that's just a thought from my side. I haven't read the study, so I might be speaking out of turn.
Yeah. Basically, you would think if the study would say, females who expose their vaginas to semen more often are less depressive.
Yeah.
That will result in a lot of babies.
Well, that was. I know that was. It wouldn't be a very responsible study, I suppose.
Exactly. So
anyway. So finally,
we
the third reason,
they did
right?
the moral thing, and then the third reason is just the obvious one. It decreases stress. Because
unless you fall pregnant.
Unless you fall pregnant, that's a bit more stressful. So during an orgasm, obviously, the brain releases oxytocin and endorphins, which is the body's natural not antidepressant, but the natural painkiller.
It's very similar to what comes from exercise as well. Just putting it out there.
It's because exercise releases endorphins. It's just obvious. So the occasional oral sex session might just relieve you of some stress at the end of a busy work week or heavy work week.
Yeah,
and it might lighten the load a bit, figuratively and literally.
That's amazing. So we've spoken about literal scientific benefits of semen, but at the same time, also the psychological impact of just oral in general.
Yes.
Wow. Talk about a happy, feel-good ending.
Exactly.
To the podcast.
For a change,
Edward, this was incredibly fascinating.
Yeah, I hope to find more studies on this because please. You poked up a few holes that I want answered.
I'm genuinely curious. So I will also actually look into this additionally. And the main reason why I didn't do it beforehand is because I actually wanted to be surprised.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, Edward and I did speak about this yesterday, and the more we spoke, the more I was like, don't tell me anymore, because I really want to hear this for the first time, and I'm really glad that I did that. Now, with that said, obviously, we'll look into this and possibly bring it up again at a future date, because this is fascinating. It's really... Thank you, Edward. You've redeemed yourself. For those of you who are listening, I hope you feel the same way. I think you did a great job, and... yeah, like I said, there was actually even more NSFW stuff that we actually had to push because but just by looking at what we had for today, we knew it was going to be a really long episode. And I think we're running into at least an hour and a half now, which is going to be the longest we've ever had. But But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed it because I certainly did.
Like, I like looking up sex stuff. I don't know why.
We all
you should
know
see my
that,
history.
okay? With your
So-
E-rated website. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there the whole time.
The weird thing is, though, my history isn't filled with Missy gets banged in the back of a taxi. It's literally just sex, fact, and
I'm so
cow
glad you brought
reception.
that up because in prep for this episode and in designing the banners for the episode, I did Google moaning.
Sex moan.
Yes. Do not do that. Please don't do that, everybody. Unless you have like a protection filter on or something, because y'all Google gonna be an
Show
eyesore.
you everything.
Okay, everything. Okay. Oh wow. Okay, well that was great. Thank you, Edward. And for all of you who are listening, thank you so much. We've reached a couple of milestones actually. I think we forgot to mention it a while back, but over 500,000 people are listening. Thank you. It's really, really cool. No, that's not concurrent listeners. I'm just saying overall. And we're really pleased with those of you who are taking the time to not only listen to us jabber about Girdle content, but who are also talking to us and writing in. I've got to admit, it's one of my highlights. I actively wait for people to write in. Edward knows this. I actually we have our regulars, and you guys know who you are. Okay, you've been mentioned so many times. And I actually was refreshing the pages this week, waiting for the comments to come through because it's just so nice. And what I like as well is that those of you who are writing in, whether it's private DMs or email, because the email address is actually publicly available, it's your responses are always so detailed.
Yeah,
it's not just like, oh, you guys are doing a great job. It's actually like, oh, I thought about this, and I don't believe that this was, you know what I mean? It's rewarding. That's what I'm
nice.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
We love seeing that. It makes our hearts all fuzzy and fills our brains with oxytocin and endorphins.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's better than the studies.
Yeah.
actually, that is actually very interesting, and I think I will look into that. That sort of relays into how social media affects the brain. So I will possibly look at that for a future episode. I know we have mentioned it once or twice before. But yeah, well, there we go. For those of you who are listening, and for new listeners, thank you so much for tuning into episode 26. I wanted to say 6.
I almost said 7. We're getting up there, okay?
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. And we look forward to seeing you all again next week.
Yeah.
Coolio. Ciao, everybody.
Bye.